use district. The objection normally is the smell, the noise, and do you want a pet store adjacent to like a restaurant or an outdoor cafe? I think that would be more in a special use category than something that would be automatic. You may have incompatible uses next to each other. Looks like.
Depends on what kind of restaurant.
I think Roger was ready to make a comment on that.
Roger?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The mayor is correct, and I think that this was included in here because it's a work in progress and maybe wanted to have discussion regarding that. But you are correct with regard to the odoriferous emanations coming from the pet stores and supply areas, as well as the possibility of rodent infestations. But these are things that can be looked at in what the city manager had mentioned a little bit earlier too, is insofar as staff being able to provide council with additional information, we would like to be able to show you at a future date the differences between what we presently have and what the trials and tribulations people have to go through in order to get to an approved use. What we certainly want to do eventually is to make this a much more simplified process where we set the ground rules, as was mentioned earlier, but also develop a new way and form of looking at the zoning so that we don't have to have additional approvals upon approvals that have already been secured. So this is something we can certainly point out in future documents.
Well, let me just ask a question. Of this list of items or of businesses that are here, does anybody have any exceptions that they think, that they feel, anything they feel?
Yes.
Other than pet shops that shouldn't be on here? First, Alderman Winger.
I'd like clarity on the first item. So as it says, any business use permitted in the B1 local retail business district. Now, is this the listing of what is, or can you just give us a nice summary of what is included in the B1 then, so we're all clear?
The B1, this is in addition to what's permitted in the B1. The B1 would be considered to be the low-intensity business uses, coin shops, doctors, lawyers, realtors.
Okay.
I think you need to, Mr. Chair, I
Alderman
think it's
Subak.
dangerous to have whatever's located in the B1 district, unless at some point we're going to have to see that B1 district and make sure nothing slips through. I mean, I thought you were really talking about a ideal, you want to really know every business that's going to go in that area. And so I think don't have a catch-all, actually provide that list and so that in this zoning, this is what you get. Not B1 and everything down. You get and take from B1 what you want into the area. Don't just do a catch-all because you might forget that there's a nuance in there that allows something that you forgot about. And strike auction rooms. Are you gonna have an auction room in a downtown area?
Again, I think it's. I don't think that it would definitely be considered an auction room that would be selling farm implements or anything like that. I believe in this context it would be more of in the line of an art gallery type auction room.
Okay.
It's got to be spelled out, though. Okay, so I would definitely concur with what Alderman Subak said. We probably should have a list of the B1 as well, and so that we can go through. But with the items, forgetting about the B1 list, the items that are listed here, other than pet shops and supply stores, does anybody have anything else they think that shouldn't be on here?
Health clubs.
You don't feel health clubs should be on there?
No,
And why is that?
because
It draws people, though. They draw people.
I know. And you got parking, you'll have parking problems and everything else. Health clubs, no.
How does everybody else feel about that? Health clubs?
I think you should restrict the size of the health club. I think Alderman Coles makes a good point that you wouldn't want to do this whole, what do you think is going to be a retail development, and all of a sudden you get a giant,
Valley.
valleys in the middle of your
Go on
downtown.
Higgins Road and see how
So I think
many cars are on Higgins Road.
Right.
That's at the health club over there.
I think
You
it's
go
a
by.
size
There must be
question.
1,000,001 cars there.
Alderman Knight?
Yeah, I think a health club can maybe be substituted with a rehabilitation center or something like that, which is low impact, you know, it, doesn't generate that much traffic or vehicles.
Okay. Alderman Winger?
I don't know if I want to define it that tightly because there are health clubs which are smaller ended, like Curves is out and it's a smaller setup and it's somewhat popular. So, and I don't believe Curves is classified rehabilitation. So I would like that flexibility.
I think you could look at it two different ways. You could, I think first off, with health clubs, I think we should look at the size, limiting the size. But then I wouldn't have a problem with adding rehabilitation center because, you know, as another item that would be allowed, but that could be covered under medical or, and I'm getting pointed at here. Yes, city manager, no, go ahead.
We're just, we were going to look at square feet. And this
Okay.
way, it would include something like Alderman Winger had suggested, because some of those places are compact. They're, you know, depending upon the size, they don't draw a lot, but they're popular with the younger crowd that, you know, they can go down to the health club and jump on the machine. It's not a, doesn't have multi-floors or anything like this. So we could look at a square footage type thing.
I think something else, and when we get into this, something else that you might want to consider when you're looking at developing like some of these, you know, the bigger buildings is as part of their development, you know, whether it's a condominiums or what, that they have a center within it, you know, a health center within their own building. You know what I mean? For the residents of that building. That's a big thing. I mean, with a lot of people is if, you know, you walk out your door and fall down the elevator shaft, you know, and walk into the health club and ride a bike or something, you know, I mean, that's a, maybe there, we could look at some kind of an incentive for that. Alderman Winger?
What type of business or can you give me some examples of what we're looking to do with research and development establishments? I'm a little concerned about that one.
It would be small scale
Yeah.
office working on I don't believe we're talking medical research here. I don't believe we're talking anything like that. It would be basically one of the new catchphrases or development terms is entrepreneurial housing, where someone would live and work all in the same either building or even in the same unit, and established our business, maybe doing market research, doing that type of development.
So perhaps we could say non-medical and chemical. So just excluding those two things.
Okay.
I have another question.
Alderman Subak?
Just on the parking lot and garages, again, I think you should put a limitation on size with the O'Hare modernization. We wouldn't want someone to buy up the entire downtown Wood area. They're permitted to put a garage in, and now we become a shuttle service for limousines to go back and forth. So I think we have to watch size limitations on anything that deals with high traffic area of cars.
Right.
You know,
Right. It has
Good
to
one,
be,
huh?
it has to be, I would say in a case like that, parking lots and garages, it would have to be either a municipal parking lot or garage, or it has to be connected to the residential and or retail area. That would eliminate that potential.
right?
Because I could see where that could happen. It's happened on Manheim Road.
And parcel delivery and pickup service, that's, again, probably limit the size though, again, because we don't want to become a cargo freight forwarder for Chicago either, for the O'Hare.
Alderman Peizik, do you have your hand up?
Yes, thank you. It's getting sore, too. I'm not, really don't have any problem with too many of these places. Secondhand store, it's too general, because you don't want that store that's over in the Georgetown Square to be moving into the center of town with all the junk, the resale stores, okay? However, believe it or not, what's striking me is what's not on here. there's nothing here in the way of an eating establishment. There's-
It's coming.
It's coming.
It's coming.
Yeah, it's coming.
Well, I
It's-
didn't, I didn't,
Yeah, it's further and, it's further.
Also, a restaurant isn't one of the
No,
permitted in a
that's-
B1.
no, I'm looking for the city clerk Starbucks that I'm, where's that gonna fit?
That would be in that
Target.
B1 list, the restaurant, so that will further spell those out. We'll take that B1 reference out.
You're gonna get a listing of that. No, we don't have it. It's not, you're gonna get a listing of it. We apologize. You will get it. Right. Okay. Yeah, Roger?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We will also be providing you with a definitions list so that you can better clarify these particular establishments.
Yeah, I was just going to say that when you look at something, when you're looking at some of these, and that's one thing, and I'm not going to sit here and tell you that I've sat down and read all the ordinances of this city, because I haven't. But I do know that sometimes when they say like office supply store, okay, that could be a very, very generic term. And what I have found in being in the council is that, okay, it's office supply store, but now let's read all the hidden meaning to what does it really mean, and that's where you can quantify or specify exactly what type of a office supply store you're really talking about. And I think that's why when we start talking about these things, you can come up with these things, but it's all of the refinement that has to go into it, and that's why, as I stated earlier, it is a very long and time-consuming process, because you want to make sure that we close all those loopholes, so that when the final is said and done, that when we're ready to put out this as a real ordinance on our books, that some developer isn't going to come in here and say, aha, I got you guys, because you said this and your interpretation means this and we think it means this. So that's why at this point we're not even to that point, and that's where we'll go through just the basics right now. Alderman Winger?
Along Alderman Piesack's point, maybe this is embedded in one of these topics, but I don't see clothing stores or shoe stores, and that's something that residents have asked me about in the past, of when are we going to get a clothing store?
That's all in the B1 uses.
Okay.
So, yeah, we'll spell all those out.
Okay, thank you.
Alderman Piesack, I'm sorry.
No, let's go back to the beginning. Any business use permitted in the B1 local retail business district. Half of these items on here meet that requirement. Why are you dictating an appliance store? Or a carpet store? Or a department store? Isn't that B1 zoning?
No.
Okay, then I'd like to see the whole package before I try and decide what I'm talking about.
Well, see, that's it. What we're saying is these are the items that are listed here are new items that would be represented under the B4, and including in the B4, you would include anything that's in the B1. But as Alderman Subak pointed out earlier, we need to have that list first before we just say carte blanche, right? And so that's why we're not going to touch on it. We'll just go on with the rest of this. And we can come back to that point at a later date when we get that information, if that's okay. Because we will get it. You'll get a listing of it all.
Okay, well, what you're telling me is that all of these items that were listed here are not B1 zoning.
Correct. Correct. Did you have your hand up?
No, never mind.
Okay.
I give up.
Okay. Don't give up.
Can we go on the special uses now?
Yes.
I have a couple questions on the special uses.
Okay. Okay, under special uses, we're looking at, I'm not going to read it all. We'll just go through questions. Alderman Subak.
Yeah, bus terminal. I don't know why you'd want a bus terminal in a downtown area. A bus stop maybe, but a bus terminal. I had a question on the antenna, radio, telephone.
Okay, wait. We
You do
can
one at a
get an
time?
answer, yeah.
Bus terminal.
Again, it would be a small addition to the train station. They might be picking up and dropping off passengers for the train station. We'll have a bus route that will go through Wooddale. It won't necessarily be like a large terminal downtown. It will basically be a shelter, an area that the buses will go in and out of, like the train station.
Okay.
That type of thing.
And then a special use, then we can control the size. That's
Yes.
fine. What was the rationale behind an antenna, radio, telephone?
You look on the top of that building up there, that's exactly the reason why. They can hide those antennas a heck of a lot better than that.
Okay, so any of that would need a special
Yes.
use. Okay.
Alderman Knight?
That example there, okay, that's one of these maximum use buildings, but if you went, the other buildings you had shown in the other areas, none of those have antennas near them, around them, that are visible or anything. I would personally just like to eliminate all the antenna transmitter type things. I believe we got one in the area that could be developed as our downtown area. And I don't know if you want to put a 10-story building up and have a
We may run
120-foot
into a
antenna
problem,
running there.
Alderman Knight, we may run into a problem with that because one of the things that would fall under this would be a police station and/or city hall. And both the police station and city hall, they require, especially the police station requires an antenna.
I think what Ross was trying to get at, that first slide with the 10-story building with the antenna, that's what we don't want. And what we don't know is those 4 or 5-story buildings, they might have an antenna that's, because we have control, it's hidden.
It's cloaked.
So that building might have an antenna.
And also the FCC might be rather concerned if we ban them completely. It might put us into a legal stipulation that would be
So yeah,
not-
condominiums
Since
got in
it is
trouble when they
being
started.
used as a special, or presented as special use, then I guess we have to deal on a case-by-case.
Right.
Okay.
Anybody have anything else on the special use? Concur with the items that are on here? Anything like to discuss, add, take out?
Yeah, as long as it goes up to Grove Street, we might want to put in mayor's office.
It's gone. Okay. Moving on, we're going to the outdoor eating cafes. Anybody see any problems with this? Any questions on this?
This is also,
This is actually word for word out of Arlington Heights. They did the research, the legal footwork on this one, and they found that this is covers them completely from any liability. Also, but still promotes the opportunity for a business to have an outdoor eating cafe.
and we would have to probably adjust our liquor license at that point, some point in the future, because I know some establishments, when I lived in Oak Park, they allowed for drinking alcohol outside in a cafe, but you had to have food, and it almost became, a joke that you had a thing of popcorn out in front of there, and I'm not saying which way is better or worse, but we could attack that later with the liquor license.
Anybody have any questions or issues with this section? I'm sorry.
On item B, outdoor eating cafes are allowed in the B4 district only. Do we not now have outdoor cafes in other districts, like the Crossroads?
Yes, we do. 2. 3, 4. Go ahead.
Those areas were permitted with special uses. This would be a use that is, I don't want to say permitted by right, but would be an acceptable, an encouraged use in this district.
Yeah.
Are you giving an incentive for those? If they have an outside cafe, that they get something as an incentive?
No, not necessarily a height bonus or anything like that, because the use that is obtaining that sidewalk cafe may not be there for the life of the building. So
Right.
in that respect, no, but it's just the incentive or allowance would be as if the public sidewalk is wide enough, wide enough, they can actually utilize the public right of way.
Okay.
Alderman Winger?
Thank you. I'm going to suggest that we, on 1.a, I'm going to suggest that we don't commit ourselves to a time frame within this ordinance. And I think the time frame of us getting back to the applicant would be more of a process procedures thing that would be done at the Community Development Department.
I think it's good to have 30-day, I mean, this puts an onus on them. If they get something, they can't sit on it for, forever. And you won't be getting phone calls from people saying, I went to those guys, and 6 months later, they finally got back to me. I think this puts the onus on the building department, or building development. So I think that actually, that's kind of good. It was one of the nice things I saw. The thing is, we want turnaround on this stuff,
Right. Agreed.
okay?
Agreed. Although I like to, perhaps at the time that the applicant comes in, there might be certain things occurring that expectations would be set when they apply. I'm okay either way, but, so if you want to keep the time frame, we can.
What, I think it's good for a business to know if they come in and they're applying for something under the B4, especially under this section, in the B4, that they know that, they come in 30 days, they're going to get an answer one way or another from the business, from the community development department, one way or another. If they meet all the criteria, if they've come in prepared, and meet all the criteria, it should be pretty much a no-brainer, hopefully based on them meeting all these requirements. And if there's an issue, then it's an automatic extension. But I think it would be good to have 30-day, on this for them. Alderman Wesley?
Item number I, operating for outdoor eating cafes should be permanent between the hours of 6 a.m. and 11. If we give a liquor license for outdoor cafe, isn't our liquor license till 1?
I'd have to defer that to the mayor.
Yes, that's true, but we can restrict that. And I think that we're talking about a later date, if this gets approved, coming back and making some changes pursuant to Alderman Subak's suggestion to the liquor code.
Well, because I know if it's a nice night out, that the outdoor cafe in downtown area, I'm sure they want to sit there and.
Yeah, I would think that there would be some exceptions we could look at, like during certain months, seasonal months, you may want to extend it, to go till maybe midnight or, or later, providing, okay, the noise, because that's something, that we have to take into consideration, okay, as well. Because if you're going to have residential area around, you don't want a whole lot of noise out there, because then our police will be really busy. Mayor Johnson?
Item C, outdoor eating cafes shall be only in the front yard of the property. I was recently at a restaurant where they had it actually in the rear of the outdoor cafe because it was immediately adjacent to one of these courtyards you're talking about where there was an interior fountain. So we may not want to restrict that.
Okay. Great. Gary Holm, Director of City Services.
As the engineer, I'll chime in on item D, where it says that it can't reduce the clear space of public sidewalks to less than 5 feet. For example, though, if you have 5 feet immediately adjacent to the curb, and then you have vehicles overhanging that curb, vehicles aren't listed because they would be a temporary obstruction. You've now reduced that open space even further. So I would make that at least 7 feet, if not even 10 feet, so that you leave that room for those pedestrians that we're trying to invite to come down there.
That's a very good point.
Good point. Thank you, Gary. Is that enough, or should we make it bigger?
I think 10 feet.
10 feet. Okay, does anybody else have anything on this section? Then I think we'll just cover one more item, and then I'd like to see if we could table this to to the next meeting. Minimum area for zoning district, 30 acres. Is everybody in concurrence with that? So what we're talking about here is that in order for, once we would approve the B4, we would say that the minimum, in order for an area to be B4, it would have to cover 30 acres. I mean, are we over, that's a lot of acres.
That is, well, and it is a lot of acreage, but what you don't want to have happen is somebody further down on Irving Park Road or up along the new Thorndale, if the Elgin O'Hare were to be done, somebody to come in and say, well, I want to rezone to B4, and they've only got a 10,000 square foot lot.
Gotcha. Okay. Alderman Knight.
Yeah, if we just go back to the previous one, under, what would that be, P4, colors should be harmonious, brilliant or bright colors only used for accent. Are we gonna have some kind of like a review board or some kind, aesthetic type review board? Because you go right down the street there to Thorndale, and you got one of the most brilliant, yeah, it's gonna be hard to say, hey, control the colors of your tablecloths or whatever, and down the street you got this bright.
That would be
building out there.
something that the Community Development Department would review that based on a set of design guidelines that we would bring forward before the council.
Okay.
Okay. Alderman Shuckey.
Yeah, how many acres is where the 7-Eleven was and the medical center? What are we talking about there between Front Street and Commercial?
Probably less than 2, probably about.
I believe it's
Yeah,
between 2 and 5.
so we wouldn't be able to have any control over that if we're saying 30 acres. I think we're being too far in excess with 30 acres.
The 30 acres would be for the entire district, not the individual parcels within. For a parcel to be designated, if one property owner within that 30 acres owns a piece of property, the B4 would be applicable to them. What the 30 acre size limit would do, like I said, it would prevent from one property owner in a different area of town petitioning to become B4, because unless that one property owner controlled 30 acres, they could not make the application to become B4.
How many acres is this?
That would be probably in excess of 150 acres.
Right. Go ahead, Frank.
We could suggest 15 acres, or we could suggest 25 acres, right? Or 20 acres. We just put that in there right now because this is the research we did. But we'll look at that also and see what the minimum and maximum would be as far as making, since we don't personally have that knowledge, we could talk to our consultant and get a better handle on that.
Can we address that a different way by just saying there's only going to be one area of B4 and not allow it any other spot, and then you don't have the issue of somebody coming in later in the industrial park saying, I want to make this downtown Wooddale Part 2. We could just say that there's only one area of B4 and it's designated at one point.
That was the idea of this map, not saying that this would be the B4, but for us to decide what would be the B4. Make this smaller, make this bigger. This would be the only B4 then. That's the idea.
All right.
I think you do it that way and you can always expand it later if you wanted to.
Okay. All right, I think at this point then, I would like to just put this on for next committee meetings. We go further along next committee meeting on this, and so that we can get on with another item here on the agenda tonight. It's funny because unfortunately, this committee, we don't always have a lot. And a lot of times we don't even have meetings, but when we do, we could be here for hours, really truly discussing a lot of these issues. But the next item, move on, is report and recommendation. This is on the economic development consultant, and I'm not sure who's handling this. Jeff, you got
Yeah, I'm going to handle it. just before I start that, the next meeting would probably be on the
This
14th
is it. It shouldn't take long.
of December for the next Economic Development Committee meeting.
Which one? I'm sorry. What?
December 14th would probably be